Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I'm George. We're all George. So unfortunately, Bitcoin dipped below 16,000 once again, and that is where it sits right now. So what caused more fear in the market? Why is Bitcoin so low? And will it continue? Let's discuss these things and more. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Man, today is just a depressing day as we had more sell pressure. U.S. markets didn't do too good either. There does seem to be a continued sell-off across equities, especially tech and crypto. But this is what's really scaring people right now. The contagion of FTX. We all know about it. I don't need to say any more about it, but this may be the next big scare, the big fallout, and that is Genesis Trading, or aka Genesis Lending. Okay, so they are warning that without new funding, they could also go bankrupt. So they're ready telling people that, hey, we are desperate for funding. Okay, now in case you didn't know, Genesis Trading and Lending is part of DCG, Digital Currency Group, led by Barry Shilbert. And DCG is absolutely monstrous. If you look at their portfolio, and I don't have it pulled up, but I should pull it up. Let me just show you guys how big DCG is. Digital Crypto. Hold on. Oh, I can't find it. Maybe I'll come back to it later. But I was looking at it. Man, I just had it pulled up. And man, they are absolutely enormous. Okay, I got it here. I got it. I found it for you guys. So, just to show you guys, DCG has invested in Abra, has invested in Akala. These are AP3s. These are some that you guys may be aware of. Maybe not, but as I go down, BitGo, that's a big one. BitPay, that's a big one. Blockstream, that's a huge one, right? And then you go down the list, Brave browser, yup. Chainalysis, yup. Circle, the creator of USDC, yup. Coinbase, yup. Coindesk, yup. The list goes on and on and on. This is how big Dapper Labs, which is behind some of the biggest NFTs, Decentraland, yes. They have all been invested by even Etherscan. Fireblocks, which is one of the biggest custodians out there. Flare Network, okay? FTX, yes. This is how big their portfolios. Hedera Hashgraph, Horizon Labs. Doesn't mean that they own all these companies. Kraken, Ledger. But they have invested a lot of money into a lot of crypto projects. Just want to show you guys how big they actually are. So people are very worried that Genesis is going to go bankrupt. Now, if Genesis Trading and Lending went bankrupt, okay, that would be bad. That would be bad. They have several billion of assets, right? And there are people that have their crypto with them, especially through Gemini Earn. But the bigger fear is the other companies that DCG owns, specifically Grayscale. Grayscale, which controls Bitcoin, the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Are they going to be forced to sell Bitcoin to cover the losses or the holes in Genesis Trading? That is what everyone is worried about right now. So it could be a double whammy, right? And that's not what we want. But what got us here, right? Why is Genesis now, having problems? What ties did it have with FTX, right? Well, let me lead up to that. First of all, they're seeking $1 billion in liquidity. Now, it's been reported that they have downgraded that $1 billion to $500 million because, quite frankly, no one is bidding. No one is interested in helping. So they have reached out to Binance and Apollo. Binance was rumored that they were interested and they may bail them out, but according to some reports, Binance decided to leave them alone too, fearful that their business can create a conflict of interest down the line, meaning that owning a lending company, right, may bring probably more scrutiny with a lot of regulators. So they may not want to have that. And it seems like right now that may be the case, right? And I don't know who Apollo is. They may be another, I'm sure there's some kind of other financial services or crypto company, but I don't know who they are. But right now, it's been reported that they can't find anyone. No one wants to give them that $1 billion or even the $500 million to $500 million, right? You figure there should be someone out there that is willing to take a chance to try to save them, right? This is a US-based company. This is one that's highly regulated and looked at and under the umbrella of DCG, which is absolutely huge. So you figure it's not being run by the likes of another SBF, right, or Caroline. These are professional people that should know what they're doing, yet no one is willing to take that chance. Now, besides selling off Grayscale's Bitcoin, they have a lot of options. This is some of their assets in terms of DCG. You know, their Grayscale assets, Genesis assets, Luno, CoinDesk, Foundry, Venture, Liquid, and others. So they do have plenty of other assets. To plug that $1 billion hole, they can technically say sell Venture and Foundry or Venture and Liquid and CoinDesk, right? That's $1 billion right there. If they want to, I'm not even sure what Luno is, but that's $1.5 billion. So they do have other assets. So selling off Bitcoin from Grayscale Bitcoin Trust is kind of like a last resort. And if they're really looking just for $1 billion, they have the assets to back that up. Now, if it's not $1 billion, well, then, of course, then it gets trickier, right? Now, what got us here? Well, according to Genesis themselves, it's because they lost a lot with Three Arrows Capital. Okay, they blame it on Three Arrows Capital. The fault of Three Arrows Capital negatively impacted liquidity and duration profiles of our London entity, Genesis Global. Okay, and then combine that with FTX, and they have unprecedented market turmoil, which created unprecedented market turmoil, which resulted in an abnormal withdrawal request. Now they have basically no more liquidity, about $1 billion short. But here's the thing. Had they had safe practices or best practices or, you know, adequate risk tolerance, this should never be the case. You should never be able to lend out more than what you have, because most lenders would take collateral, right? You had to put down collateral to borrow. And most lenders ask for 100% collateral to be able to borrow 50% of that, meaning if you put down 1 Bitcoin, you could borrow half Bitcoin, right? That's usually how it works. So how is it that since Three Arrows Capital, which borrowed from Genesis, we know that, how is it that that negatively affected them? Shouldn't Three Arrows Capital had to have put down collateral to to take out the loan? Unfortunately, Genesis, like many others, like Celsius and like Voyager, they thought someone like Three Arrows Capital could be trusted. That's where the mistake came in, because now it's been reported that Genesis did offer unsecured loans, okay? Just like Celsius, just like Voyager, because back in the day, Three Arrows Capital was a big giant, and everyone thought you could trust Three Arrows Capital, that nothing would ever happen to them, and that they participated in some unsecured loans with Three Arrows Capital. That is why when Three Arrows Capital went down, they got stuck with nothing, right? Apparently, Three Arrows Capital didn't put any collateral down. So that's why they're in this position. Unfortunately, all these lending companies just decided to trust one another, and that is why we have this contagion go on. And it's very, very unfortunate. So bottom line, I think this has to be the biggest scare right now, right? Unfortunately, we're just reeling from the FTX collapse saga, but now we have to worry about Genesis, because Genesis is absolutely huge, okay? And because it's tied within DCG, which is even a bigger group, right? Hopefully, this doesn't drag them down. If Genesis lending or Genesis trading goes under, there will be some that will be affected. Obviously, they have a lot of assets, but you know, we don't want to see the worst case scenario, which is them dragging DCG down with them. But right now, it does not seem like that's the case, because DCG has a lot of assets. That's the latest. That is the biggest reason why Bitcoin is down, and many people are fearful, and many people are wondering, well, what if Grayscale ends up selling their Bitcoin, right? That's a lot of Bitcoin, 630,000 Bitcoins. Are they going to liquidate them? You know, even if they tried to, I don't even think they can legally, because they have structured a trust in a way where they're offering shares, right? So there has to be some kind of backing with however many outstanding shares has to be backed by a certain amount of Bitcoin, right? I know there's a discount, but I'm assuming that even if they wanted to, it's not going to be that easy, because that's very, very highly regulated. So I don't know exactly how that works, but I'm thinking we're not there yet. Now, that's not the only reason why. That's not the only reason why there's so much fear right now. There's also reports that institutions are shorting Bitcoin and Ethereum by record numbers, okay? We know that the big whales, institutions, they like to manipulate the market. They like to take advantage. So CoinShares actually did some research, and it looks like there's a massive amount of inflows last week, okay? And 75% of inflows was towards short products. So we're talking about institutions that are basically putting even more sell pressure on the space right now, because number one, they could. Number two, they know it's going to have effect. And number three, they could probably end up buying at a lower price. That's why they do it, right? So this is pretty bad that you have massive amount of inflows coming in, but 75% of it is short. Okay, and this is for Bitcoin and a lot with Ethereum. These big boys are definitely trying to cause more fear and trying to manipulate the market more. Why? Like I said, because they know they can do it. It'll cause more fear and more selling. And why? Because they can end up buying more from you. That's how it's always been. Remember how Jamie Dimon's always been negative on Bitcoin, right? Now, all of a sudden, JPMorgan is coming out with their own crypto wallet. So they do one thing and say another. Why do you think Jamie Dimon is trying to cause more fear for crypto? Because this benefits them in some way. JPMorgan is not out of crypto. They're not out of Bitcoin. In fact, they're moving forward. They already have their chain. They already have their own crypto. They already offer custody services. They already offer crypto trading. And now they're coming out with their own wallet. So think about that, right? So why did these guys do it? Because they want to take advantage. They want to cause people like you and I to basically give up and say, you know what, it's time to call it quits, while they continue to buy. So stay strong, my friends, because there are a lot of fear right now, right? And short term, if Genesis does go down, it would bring even more fear, okay? And things might get worse before they get better. But long term, nothing has changed. The fundamentals of Bitcoin continues to be strong. The number of holders are still strong, and they continue to grow. So look at the people that believe, people under one Bitcoin, holding one Bitcoin, right? Look at the spike up in the position, right? You have a lot of people under one Bitcoin that is adding to their bag, right? This skipped a little bit, but let's say 1 to 10 Bitcoin, you see that spike up too. Same thing, 10 to 100 Bitcoin. You see a spike up, not as much as the others, but you definitely see it. And even the big guys, 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin, you see that big spike up, right? But primarily the retail investors, the average Joes under 10 Bitcoin, they are stocking up because they're not going away. They're not deterred by what's happening, and that's terrific. Of course, there's still a lot of on-chain metrics like this one that's showing that, hey, if you're looking for a buying opportunity, it doesn't get much better than now, right? There are so many that are looking at stuff like this, especially like this one. This is another one called SPOR, which basically measures whether or not someone's profitable or not when they sell. And if you look at this, this is a pretty accurate, very accurate, in fact, on-chain metric that looks at bottoms. Look at the deep green whenever Bitcoin hit a bottom, right? Like back in 2018, back in 2020, right? Even the mid-cycle dip during 2021, you see massive green, right? But look at those spikes. And right now, we see one of those again, just like the previous spikes that we had, right? So is this a reversal or bottom indicator? Could possibly be. But short term, maybe it gets scarier, but long term, Bitcoin does not get deterred, does not get pushed away. Bitcoin will continue forward. That's the bottom line. Bottom line. All right. Outside of this, there's a Senate committee scheduled for FTX. Of course, a lot of people want to ask some tough questions. Whether or not Sam Bankman-Fried is going to get extradited back to the U.S., that's still unknown at this point. But there's a lot of talks about how that may happen. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens or not. But that hacker that took all the money, or 600 million worth, right? They keep making these moves. They've been buying Bitcoin. Now they're spreading out ETH. No one knows what their master plan is, but it doesn't matter what they do. Everyone's tracking it. They could split this to 120 wallets or 1,200 wallets. People will track every single transaction. So I don't know what their master plan is, but it doesn't seem like they're going to go anywhere with it, which is a good thing. Another lending company, NEXO, is being sued because there was entrepreneurs that claimed that they tried to withdraw 126 million. They were not allowed to. And then they were asked if they want to sell their assets for 60% of the 100%. So they are suing them for that. So NEXO may be also in trouble. They are a lending company outside the U.S., somewhere, some European country. And recently, they also stated that they lucked out. They pulled out $100 million from FTX right before it collapsed, right? So lucky them. But had that not happened, they would be even in a deeper hole. So anyways, right now, there's still just a lot of fear. It's best to safeguard your own crypto, right? If you haven't withdrawn from, like, let's say NEXO or anywhere else that you simply don't trust at this point, well, put it into your own wallet so that you could trust that it won't stop withdrawals or anything like that. So be careful with your own funds. And then lastly, as for hardware wallets, Binance is making moves in their hardware wallet with a new investment into this other wallet maker called Ngrave. You know, Binance doesn't have their own hardware wallet, but they do have their non-custodial wallet, the Trust wallet, which I think is fantastic. But they looks like they want to get into hardware game as well. But right now, obviously, the hardware game, Ledger is leader, and then Treasure is second, and there's a few others out there as well. That is pretty much it. Hey, the George effect kicked in a little bit. We're a little bit higher than before. But, man, just hovering below 16,000 really sucks. Unfortunately, FTX contagion spread to Genesis. And unfortunately, we have to worry about Genesis. And we'll see where that goes. All right, let's do some Q&A. Spaceboy says, George, it seems like we keep attacking each other and bring the industry down. I wish there's an honest cooperation between all players. We would benefit that. It's funny that you said that because I just said that too. Today I was talking to a few people in Patreon. I'm like, hey, bottom line is there's a lot of finger pointing right now, and I've been saying this for a long time. It doesn't help anyone. We need to come together as a group and move forward, right? Like this whole battle between Solana guys pointing fingers at Cardano guys, and now Cardano guys pointing fingers at Solana guys. Who does it help? Does it help Cardano or Solana anyway? No, it doesn't. All this infighting really just holds us down, right? And now it's not just even the altcoin guys, fighting. You got Bitcoin maxis also fighting. You got everyone from the Bitcoin camp saying, oh, look at FTX. This is proof that everything else is garbage, right? So you should just hold Bitcoin. I don't believe in that either. Yes, Bitcoin is the big daddy. And yes, it's the greatest asset and decentralized network we have. But that doesn't mean that everything else is bad. But then you have that kind of infighting as well, right? There's just a lot of finger pointing. And yes, it's good to call the bad actors and weed them out, but overall as a whole, we as a community need to stay together and look out for each other, and that's how we get past all this. Let's see here. IQ detector. George, at this point, isn't XRP the best risk versus reward? If they win the lawsuit, crypto is going to, okay. If they win, their price will 10x. First of all, that may be true, but everything else could also do 10x. So I don't know if it's the best risk versus reward. If they win, it's going to help the entire crypto industry. Will it help XRP more than others? In my opinion, short term, yes. Long term, no. You got to realize if you actually plot out a lot of these altcoins, they're already down over 90%. So their potential of 10x is very easy because that's simply just to get back to their previous highs. So I don't know if I agree with you there. Do you think ADA can overtake ETH one day? Anything's possible, but ETH has to really screw up for a long, long, long time for that to happen. So yes, it's possible, but it really depends on how much ETH messes up. I divide in trust wallet and ledgers that fine. Yes, you're never gonna find one wallet that can store all your crypto. So you're gonna have to spread it out. Let's see. Where will the price go if everyone sells BTC and only the holders? I don't know. Holders are 66% plus. That's been holding for 1+ year. If you extrapolate to like 3 or 5 years, it's even higher, right? So you're talking about if everyone leaves and then 99% are held by holders, I don't know where Bitcoin's price is, honestly. I don't think there's any way to really calculate that. If FTX own no crypto, why should it affect the price? Nothing to sell. Can you help me understand? First of all, they do own crypto. And second of all, they did create FTT, and they utilized that, and they borrowed against it from other companies, and they used it to, they used it around, right? So a lot of companies that now hold FTT or provided liquidity to FTX, they're all empty. So there's that. That's why. And plus, it causes fear, right? Like what's happening in Grayscale right now, they said it's due to massive fear, massive withdrawals. It also causes bank runs. So if you think about it, like these bank runs, if these exchanges can't handle them, that's because there was something wrong to begin with. So technically speaking, it's good because it's weeding out the bad actors, but short term, it's going to suck really bad. If we have another major exchange that goes under, that would be absolutely horrible. But yeah, that's why it's called a contagion. It's like a disease that gets spread around. Do you still think Gemini is a safe exchange? I still think so, except because they have some ties with Genesis. I don't know if they have any other ties besides their Earn program was offered through Gemini. Hopefully that's the only case, right? I still think they're relatively safe because they are highly regulated in New York and the United States. Still have a really good reputation, but I haven't really heard much from them. I just know that any of the exchanges in the US are, in my opinion, a bit more, just a tad more, a bit more safe because of the regulations and scrutiny they have to go through. Keep in mind, FTX collapsed because FTX.com, the international, that was not as scrutinized, right? Even though FTX.US also went under, it's because the big FTX.com kind of pulled them under. So I don't know if that's really, if you should take that into consideration, but I tend to think that the ones based in the US, you know, it's hard to get those bit licenses and everything else they have to go through, the money transmission license and stuff like that. I tend to think they're safer, so I'm thinking that Gemini is still safe, although who knows what their true exposure is to Genesis is. I don't know if that helps you. Hopefully. Mike, hey, super chat, thank you. My skin looks really good. Thank you. The diet's going fine. I've adapted, I've learned, so now it's pretty easy for me to pick and choose what I need to eat. So far, so good. Let's see. There's a lot of fun. Michael's asking, there's a lot of FUD directed against Tether, mostly being spread by a Twitter account called Bitfinex. Is the FUD real or imagined? Well, that FUD, I don't know what he said exactly, but Tether has always had a lot of shadiness, okay? And that's because the parent company of Tether, Bitfinex, did some shady things. They created a lot of tokens to cover their mishandling of funds. Bitfinex owns Bitfinex and Tether, and just look up their history. Bitfinex lost like hundreds of millions through a hack, so they had to come out with some other token to cover that, and somehow they were able to get away with it. Then they had this bright idea to come out with stablecoin Tether, which some argues had a lot to do with the 2017 bubble. But then it was discovered, well, Bitfinex also had, this was like 2020 or something like that, they had $850 million seized by some bank, and they had problems. And they took out a 0% interest loan from Tether for $850 million. And then guess what? Then the New York Attorney Generals went after Tether, saying, well, you don't have the funds at all. And guess what they did? They came out the Leo token, and they raised $850 million, and then they patched the hole that they had in Tether using the new token. And somehow they convinced people to buy the new Leo token for that purpose. So you can see how Tether is has a shady past, right? So I don't know if that's what you wanted to hear, but that's why I've always said I don't trust Tether. That company created 3 tokens out of thin air, and it's just one after another after another. Have I tried intermittent fasting or long-term fasting? Intermittent fasting I've been doing for a while. It works until it doesn't. Like, the immediate benefits to intermittent fasting comes out right away, but then after a while, it loses all benefits. I still try to follow it. I still don't eat breakfast, but the immediate benefits of intermittent fasting just kind of, I see very little results from it. Let's just put it that way. Where's the SPF Caroline video? You promised that. Well, if I had it, I would show you guys live. Okay, but I don't have it. I don't have it. No, BTC ETH, you lost the 50 pounds because you're in a calorie deficit. It has really nothing to do with intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting needs to be combined with some other diet that puts you in a calorie deficit. Intermittent fasting, in my opinion, helps because you're skipping one whole meal. So that gives you an advantage of, you know, having less calories that you eat. And plus, it shrinks your stomach and it helps you eat less for lunch. But if you're not combining it with anything else and you're not in a calorie deficit, IF is not going to help you in any way. Vincent, congratulations. You got your R1T the other day. You know why mine didn't come? Because I added the extended battery pack, whatever the bigger battery pack is. And they said because of that, it's going to be delayed until 2024. Not that I want it now anyways. Even if they said, would you take it? I'm like, no, I got too much cars. And the worst time to be buying cars right now. But congratulations. I'm glad you like it. I see a few around. Let's see. Julian, hopefully that tape never surfaces, ever. Did the person walking in your house ever apologize? No, I never got an email. I kind of expected he would send an email or something to kind of explain himself and apologize. But no, I never got an email. Luckily, I haven't seen him at the house again. And I've been reading through the comments. I can't tell if it's him. Some people pretend like they're him, but I don't know if it's him. I don't think I got an official apology. What do you think about Tim Draper and his prediction of 250,000 Bitcoin short term remains unchanged? Well, he said 2023, and we're heading in 2023. Can I see Bitcoin at 250,000 by the end of 2023? I say no. Can we see end of 2024 after the halving event? Possibly. But I would say more likely probably 2025. Definitely. But 2023, too early for that. Too early for that. That doesn't mean that we can't have a significant recovery in 2023, which I still believe can happen. But 250,000 by 2023 is not going to happen at this point. Would you get the Engrave wallet? I've never played around with it, so I can't tell you how good it is or not. Cobra Kai, I actually really enjoyed those videos. I actually got really depressed because I couldn't make them anymore. Because I had so many already recorded up to that point, and there's so much more progress now that I would love to show, but I can't. So it actually, that actually made me depressed for a couple of days. You considering Twitter more with Elon promising higher content pay than YouTube? Of course, I would consider it, but I just don't see it at this point. Twitter is not going to get more advertisers than YouTube. They're not going to have more income streams than YouTube simply with the blue check marks. So I don't know how they're going to be able to do that. And it's not really optimized for video, not nearly like YouTube is. But if you can make it happen, if you could bring any significant monetization, that'd be great. Because you look at like IG and TikTok and Shorts right now, their monetization sucks. But if they can make it happen, yeah. Keep the house footage in 20 years when you sell, moved, and release. I don't plan on ever moving from that house. I mean, that's the one-time thing. It's like, I'm building it. It's what we want. It's our dream home. That's it. We're never moving. Have I used the Lightning Network and paid for any goods? No, because I haven't spent crypto for any goods. I just don't think it's wise to do that. Maybe one day, when I have enough and, I have more than enough, then I could start spending it. But right now, I feel like spending crypto is just kind of silly. I should go on a Joe Rogan podcast. I love to go, but I don't feel like I'm qualified for that. But yeah, I would love to go. Joe's a smart guy. Whether or not you like him or not, he's very controversial, but Joe is definitely a smart guy. Reads a lot of stuff, has a lot of knowledge. I like the clips I watch, for the most part. Ethereum 800 soon. Your thoughts? Ethereum could fall to 800 if Bitcoin continues to decline. I would say the next, if we get Genesis, if Genesis declares bankruptcy and then somehow, because there's other, you know, and the contagion spreads from there to others and we get more selling and more defaults and bankruptcies, right? We have something next like that happen. Can Bitcoin fall further from here? Yes. Can it fall to 13 or 12,000? Yes. Can it fall below 10,000? I believe not, unless we have some kind of absolutely catastrophe happen, like if another major exchange goes under. Unless that happened, then I don't think we're going to see that. So short term, if that happens, can Ethereum go below 1,000 to 800? Yes, I would say that's possible. Do we have one final leg before crypto bottom? I don't believe we have any more final legs. I only believe if there's more catastrophe. Like, as for long-term holders, no one is selling. Okay? The only people selling are basically what's left are like the institutions and big whales. Like institutions that are forced to liquidate. That is what I believe is happening, and that's what's driving things down. Long-term holders still sticking at 66%. It's not dropping. Everyone's still holding and plus DCAing. That's why the addresses and net values is actually going up. But you got all these big institutions that have burnt up their billions and they may be forced to liquidate. And that's where you get the sell pressure, right? And plus now there's reports about Wall Street institutions trying to short the market. That obviously does not help. But that's why I don't believe there's any leg downs anymore. Nothing that shows that it needs to leg down. It's whether or not we get more catastrophe at this point. Like if Genesis goes under. And if they go under, who else are they going to bring down with them? Because they're a big giant. Are others going to be pulled down with them, right? And then when that happens, where does it go? Does it just stop or there's more contagion elsewhere? So if it keeps rolling and spreading, then yes, I could see we could go down. But if nothing happens, if Genesis finds a suitor, we're good with that. The FTX contagion stops. There's no reason why we need to have another leg down before we start recovering. Is Binance safe? As safe as it could be, I would say. They're the biggest player in this space. And CZ seems to be a good guy. He seems to know what he's doing. He's making all the right moves, saying all the right things. So I would say they're pretty safe right now. But, again, safeguard your own crypto. Safeguard your own crypto. I mean, I've been telling you guys that. And by the way, not to do a shameless plug, but I think this is worth it. Those of you guys that are trying to buy yes. Those of you guys that's been waiting to buy a ledger, right? Like because of everything that's going on. But they do have the Black Friday sale where they're giving you free Bitcoin when you buy a ledger. So if you're buying a ledger X, for example, that's normally $150. You add it to cart, and they're going to give you a gift card worth $30 with a Bitcoin. I mean, it's a pretty significant amount. And then the S Plus, if you add it to a wallet, if you add a card, you get $20 worth of Bitcoin. So for those of you guys that's been waiting to safeguard your own crypto with a ledger, you may want to think about this Black Friday sale for Ledger. And use my link in the description. Can you give examples of companies that was at bottom and now they are some of the biggest? I remember you gave examples before. Oh, that's easy. Cardano's one of them. BNB is another one. They were all small caps. They were microcaps. Cardano came out of nowhere and jumped up. Dogecoin was a small cap until 2021. Dogecoin had many, many more decimal points. Sheeb, had more decimal points. Tron also came out of nowhere. I remember talking about Tron when they were at 100 million, and then they shot up to $1 billion plus before they popped the last bubble. But I remember covering Tron when they were under 100 million, really. And then most of these, back in 2017, they were all small caps. Cosmos was, Stellar, Algorand. I mean, most of these are 10x higher than they were before. Teresa just picked up a good bag of Phantom and ADA. Good. And thank you. Email george@CryptosRUs.com. Solana blew up VC money. Well, that's true. I still remember Chamath and all those guys from the All In podcast, that video where they were all talking about how they made billions in Solana and they plan on dumping it. Whether or not they did, I don't know, but they were like so like bragging about it, I guess. All right, guys, I'll let you go. Overall, unfortunately, this DCG, Grayscale, Genesis lending thing is causing a lot of fear. A lot of fear. And on top of that, Wall Street is trying to short the hell out of Bitcoin. But why are they doing it? Because they want to stock up. Because they say one thing and then they do another. So don't fall for it. Stay strong, my friends. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, 8:15 a.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.